Hi guys, welcome to another video. So this is my review and a couple of tips that I would give on this Wolf Warrior. Basically I'm just coming up to 350 miles now. So obviously, unlike a phone where you can just unpackage the product and review it, this is a bit different because you've got a lot of durability is involved in here, and I'll give you some tips about the durability of this throughout this review video. So anyway, I'm just coming up to 350 miles on the clock, and this is the best scooter undoubtedly that I have ever owned. But it's also the most expensive, so I suppose that's a given anyway. But yeah, the thing is a tank. It's fast, it's torquey, and yeah, it's a brilliant scooter basically. Just to go into some of the specifications. So firstly, we've got fully hydraulic brakes, front and rear. And you've also got regen braking as well, which you can turn off by selecting 0, or you can turn on by selecting levels 1 to 5 to change intensity. I've got mine on level 3, I believe, which seems pretty powerful. And obviously you're going to get a bit of juice back into the batteries at the same time while you're braking, as well as probably save your pads a little bit because there's less stress on the actual brake pads and disc itself. Also, when you're using the brakes, you have a brake light here, obviously a rear brake light. It doesn't matter if your lights are on or off. If the lights are on, obviously the light just gets brighter, or it might be a different bulb inside, I don't know. But yeah, you've got brake lights as well. So in terms of power, you've got dual 1200 watt motors on here. Peak power for both of them is 5,400 watts brushless power. So definitely a lot of power in this scooter. The torque is brilliant as well, but you've got to be moving basically. And if you're starting on a very steep incline, sometimes it just basically stalls. Where, just put it in perspective, the Mantis Mini I had before this, which is a lighter scooter, dual 800 watts, a lot less power, that could pull off on steeper inclines than this can. That said, once you're actually moving with this scooter, the thing's a tank and there's no stopping it. So yeah, pulling off on real steep inclines, not so good. Once you're going, absolutely fantastic. I think the motors are wound more for speed. In terms of speed, I've had 54 miles per hour out of this, and that's on my GoPro GPS, so pretty accurate. I think the display was showing like 57 or something. Obviously I'm 115 kilograms. Normally I can reach about 40 to 45 miles per hour pretty quickly and maintain that speed almost anywhere. That said, I don't normally ride this in, I'm always in dual motor, but I don't normally ride this in turbo mode. I normally put it in eco, and then you're restricted to about 40 mile an hour, I think 39, 40, which is more than enough power. Apparently it not only limits the speed, but it will also pull back the torque a little bit. To be honest, I noticed the speed's limited, but as to the torque, it's got more than enough torque to fly you up anything in eco mode, and like I said, up to about 40 miles per hour. See, the model I went for is the off-road version. Only difference between this, the road and the off-road, is the tyres. These are great for off-road, although I have heard the road tyres are pretty good off-road as well, but for anything muddy, these are a lot better because you've got the tread patterns to dig into the grass. You don't slide out like other scooters. When I wear these out, I'll probably put road tyres on, only because these are very noisy on the road. There's more resistance, you're probably going to get slightly less range as well, and they're probably going to wear quicker as well. Like I said, I've done 350 miles so far. They don't need changing yet, but there is signs of wear on both. For range, so far I've only been out about 21 miles is my longest ride, and I went out on 100%. I come back with about 51% battery left. Absolutely phenomenal on range, more than I need, and I'm always keeping it in dual motor mode, so absolutely spot on range. So you've got built-in lights. Like I said, when you turn the lights on, you'll have this light come on here, and there's also a brake light inside it. You've got a little button there which turns on the side LEDs across here, and also these two LEDs at the front. They're great for letting vehicles know you're coming towards them, but not really good for seeing where you're going yourself in the pitch black. But you do have these, and they are phenomenal. They are so bright. You've got 3 different modes. Well, obviously you can turn them off, then you can put on high, low, or flash. And flash is good for daytime driving. Obviously everyone can see you coming. They are very bright. In fact, I've had to angle these down slightly and put 2 other lights on there for normal nighttime riding, because it literally just blinds everyone you go up to. So I keep them angled down, and when I'm off road at night, dark lanes or anything, that's when I'll stick them on, when I can't blind anyone. And if we just pop back round here, you'll see that we've got 2 charging ports. Obviously it only comes with 1 charger, and that's all I've got, which I think is on a 1.7 amp charger. and that's all I'm using at the moment. But you can put 2 standard chargers in there, or I believe you can use a 5 amp quick charger. So that might be something I invest in the future, but at the moment I'm doing fine with a standard charger. Now this is what sets this scooter apart from the others. This dual stem design here is absolutely rigid compared to any other scooter I've so far. I've had M365, M365 Pro. I then had the Mantis Lite Plus, which is a single 800 watt, and then I had the Mantis Mini, which has got 8-inch wheels, 2 800 watt motors, and they were all okay, but you always had a little bit of play in them. This is absolutely rock solid. And as for the folding mechanism, this is it here. This is next level as well. You can tighten this up, and what I've done as well is just adjust the lock nut, which is an eye lock, on the back, so it's nice and tight. You've got a safety pin here, which is nothing more than just a safety pin. You can remove it if you want to. It's there just in case that main mechanism bolt breaks. This is locking into the alley, as you can see the pin coming out just up here, and you've also got this little bit here that you turn just to lock this in place. As to this chain, mine has come off once without knocking it or anything. It literally just broke off, so I just got a pair of pliers, squeezed it back together. That's one of the complaints about this scooter, although, you know, it's a little chain that can be replaced with anything basically. So we've got front and rear suspension. You can see we've got dual springs in here. I think they've got like little nylon shock absorbers in the middle, in the center of the springs. Very, very good. I like the suspension. Because of my weight, because when I had the Mantis Lite Plus, the Mantis Mini was okay, that was quite solid to be honest, but the Mantis Lite Plus, which is basically the Mantis 10, just like any full-size Mantis, that would bottom out a lot on the rear. This is fine. It's probably because we've got 2 springs on the back. Now this is the next level suspension on the front, similar to a motorbike design, I suppose. I know I've seen a lot of people, well not a lot, but a few people complain about leaky shocks. I've not suffered that. I'm 350 miles in, absolutely superb. Personally, I think this is one of the best design front suspensions you can get, rather than having any C or V type suspension. If you hit a big pothole in this, the suspension is right above it to take the impact, rather than going for a big V mechanism, which obviously stresses a lot of the components out. Also, just to mention on the folding mechanism, when you fold this scooter up, although it folds up, it actually becomes longer. The front wheel sticks out more. It's not really a scooter for portability. You don't buy it for that. It's too heavy, and like I said, it's very, very big. As to the deck size, brilliant. Nice massive big deck, obviously to hold that big battery inside. Obviously this model is the 60 volt 35 amp hour. It says LG version on the side, but I've opened it up. I think there's Samsung, well I know there's Samsung cells inside, but even so it's still branded cells, so a lot better than the cheap Chinese cells that you can get in other scooters. As to the horn, well, it is a horn, it's not a bell. It's basically off a car or a motorbike. So if I just tap the horn quickly, yeah, very loud. Hard to use it, to be honest. You've got a solid side kickstand here, no issues with that whatsoever, although I have tightened up the fixing on that, more on that in a minute. But yeah, brilliant stand. In terms of settings on the controller, there's loads you can do on this. So like I said, you've got regen braking, so you can have it on 0 off, 1 to 5. I've got this one on 3, which is more than good enough. You can also limit the max speed in a percentage, so 50% to give you half of the max speed, probably like 25 mile an hour or so on. I keep that at 100. There's so many more settings in here. You can change the torque levels, and you've also got your 2 switches here on the right hand side. The red one, single dual. Pushing that one in will activate dual motor, and on the yellow one on the left, pushing it in activates eco. Like I said, I keep this in eco 99% of the time. No need for turbo really, unless you want to go 40 mile an hour. You also got 3 speed settings here. As you can see, we're in gear 3. That's by pressing that little button with a dot on it. You'll cycle 1, 2, 3, and again that limits the speed. See a few more of the parameters as I go through. The time, obviously, since I've turned the scooter on this time. That's trip mileage, total mileage, the amount of times I've charged it up. Now one thing about that is, if you only use 5 or 10% stick on charge, it won't count. But I've noticed if you use like 30 or 40% charge, it will count it up when it reaches 100%. So, and there's your overall voltage, and that's what I normally keep it on as I'm riding around. And you can obviously see your regen brakes working and all sorts when you've got this on. You've also got cruise control on here. I've turned that off. Reason being, I find it quite comfortable to control the throttle with my finger on the little throttle here. I suppose if you go on long rides where you're not stopping and starting and going around a lot of corners, commuting daily, might be a good idea to put cruise control on. But for me, I don't need it. And when I did turn it on to try it, the first time I let off the power because I wanted to slow down and stop, obviously I carried on going. It kind of shocked me. So yeah, turn that straight off. Don't need it really. And the other setting we've got is the ABS braking, which again, I've turned that off. Definitely don't recommend that one. Apparently, if the back wheel locks up, possibly the front as well, but you're not really going to lock the front up, I suppose. But if the back wheel locks up, and it can literally use the motor to force the wheel around, stop you coming off. But as well as that, whenever you use the brakes, it's just on off, on off, on off. It's not only when you're locking up the brakes, it's constantly just a vibration motion going all through the scooter. In fact, in the manual it says if you turn it on, make sure all your fixings are secure around the brake and wheel area. So yeah, turn that off. So here's a couple of the accessories I've got on my scooter. This phone holder here, totally recommend this one. I'll put a link to all this stuff in the description, so you can go and check it out on Amazon UK if you want to. It's quite cheap, this one. I haven't had any issues whatsoever. This has been on all 5 of my scooters, so hasn't let me down once. You can do your phone up nice and tight. Sometimes after a couple of miles, I'll pull over and I'll grab the thumb screw on the side, and you feel like it's just undone slightly. I don't know if it has, or it's just the fact that the phone's been moving around and sat better inside it. But apart from that, this phone holder is brilliant. Couple of extra lights, like I say, which definitely help out for night riding, so you don't have to blind everyone. Hence why I've got one pointing down at the road. This one's higher, more so for off-road, to go with the big 2 LEDs on the front. You'll see they, as standard, they put this big black cable wrap around most of the cables. There is some points that there isn't any, and that's where I've got this red stuff, which I got myself from Amazon. And again, a link in the description for that stuff. It's only cheap, just to protect it a little bit more. Put that both sides. A few other places, lights and horn, but more importantly, there wasn't any here on the back. So this cable here is the cable for the rear motor, and it will rub on the arm eventually. There's no mark on the insulation yet, but obviously to prevent that, I've stuck some on there just so that takes the brunt of all the rubbing. And I've also put some on the rear hydraulic hose as well. So one thing I will say, electric scooters, because see a lot of people on Facebook groups and that complaining about them falling apart and so on, and I can only talk from my own experiences, but one tip I would say is you kind of need to be maintenance savvy with these. You can't take them out of the box brand new and expect to ride to 2,000-3,000 miles without an issue. All the scooters I've had, you get fixings that are loose. They come loose sometimes. They did with this. So this rear caliper on the back was loose when I got it, so I had to tighten all that up and use thread lock on the threads. These fixings just in here, you've got to take off the framework here, but there's thread lock on all them now. The wheel nuts, I've done all them. Any fixing that I take out or I check and it's loose, I'll basically put thread lock on it. If I check a fixing and it seems tight and I can tell there's thread lock on it, then I'll leave it. But obviously you need to check it now and then. And one thing I did have is this horn was rattling, and that was because it was bent so far forward. This bracket, it just kept tapping on the framework, so I've bent that down. That's not an issue now. Like I said, some people complain about that chain. Mine's broke off once, but it's a minor. It's definitely nothing to do with the durability of the scooter. You can change that for probably £1 yourself, get another chain or a strap. As I mentioned before, some people do complain about the shocks leaking oil, although I have had 0 issues with them, so not a complaint from me yet. Another thing is this deck mat. It will, I won't say it'll come off, because you're waiting, you'll be riding it and you'll be stood on it, so it's not exactly going to come off, but they don't stick it down with anything decent. It's like this glue, which is quite hard. And same with my other Kaabo scooters, the Mantises I had, both of them, the mats, you just pull one of the corners up, or in the wind, the thing would just, like half of it would come off and start blowing in the wind. So as with all of them, I'll clean that glue off, get a little bit of black or clear mastic, silicone, and just put that in the middle section. I say only the middle section, because then you can still get to all the fixings if you want to remove it. And absolutely no issues now, that's not going anywhere. In terms of safety gear, guys, you need it for this. This does 50 miles an hour, and it's never going to be as stable as riding a bike with big wheels. So certainly recommend, it's essential, get yourself a helmet and all the safety gear to go with it. Okay guys, that's about it. My thoughts and experiences and kind of a review about this scooter. You might have different experiences, but hopefully this will help you a little bit if you're trying to make a buying decision, or if you've got one and you want to know any maintenance tips. One of the main things I would say to take away from this is make sure you thread lock the fixings and check them. If I had never thread locked some of these fixings, I'd have brake calipers off by now. The frame would probably be apart. But as long as you keep on top of it, you'll have absolutely no issues. I use medium type thread lock, which is the blue stuff as well. You can use green if you want the high strength, but that's supposed to be permanent. You might risk snapping the bolt and trying to undo something. So yeah, medium type thread lock on most of the fixings, certainly all the crucial ones. Please like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell button if you want to see more videos. I'll leave you with some riding footage now, and I'll see you on the next one.